Alright, hello my creepy poples. So here's what we're doing today. I got Luna a cat tree, and I have taken out all of the materials out of that box right there. And I'm going to put it here in this corner. So hopefully she'll like it there. She's already started playing. There's a ball right there. See the ball? She's already started playing with that. So hopefully she's gonna like it. I'm gonna put this on the tripod and film what I'm doing. We're right in the middle of an Arctic blast, a polar vortex, a deep freeze, whatever you want to call it. So I needed something to do, so this is what I'm gonna do. I'll put all the information in the description about where I got it and how much it was and all that stuff. But all right, so here we go. Hey there. So as you watch this high-speed version of me putting together the cat mansion, which I've started calling it since I built it, I'll tell you that it took at least 2 days for Luna to actually finally get onto the cat mansion and relax on it. I couldn't get her to just let me put her up there. She had to, of course, figure it out on her own. So this was on, so I was putting this together on over the weekend, sort of, and on Monday I decided to work from home. I just saw my giant butt in the camera. Anyway, on Monday I decided I was going to work from home, and I actually wasn't going to work from home, but for some reason I just thought, well, I'm going to work from home. I didn't feel like going in, and everything was going fine. The morning was fine. I was having actually a really productive day, and I was getting work done and everything. Well, I had a meeting scheduled for 1 o'clock, and I looked over, and well, before that I had lunch and stuff, and Luna had, she always begs for a little piece of it or whatever, so I always give her some of it. So she had done that very thing just like normal, and I looked over and I noticed that she seemed like she was, I thought, maybe coughing up a hairball or something, pretty standard stuff that cats do. But what I noticed was that she wasn't actually coughing. She was really having a hard time breathing. And I watched her for just a minute thinking maybe, like I said, maybe she's just, who knows what. So I realized that something was definitely wrong. So I realized something was really wrong, and so I called the vet, the normal vet that I take her, where I take her. And I told them what was happening, and I said, can I bring her? Because really, where the vet is from my house, it's only about a couple minutes maybe. And they said that there weren't any doctors there, and that I needed to take her to the emergency vet. And so I loaded her in of course, she still fought me, because that's what cats do, I guess. She still fought me getting her in the carrier and stuff. And she was meowing and everything, but I could tell something was really, really wrong, because she wouldn't even, usually she'll walk in and turn around and just, kind of meow or whatever, but this time I put her in and she wouldn't even move her tail out of the way. I had to figure out how to get her tail out of the way so I could close the door. So I got her in the car, and in the meantime I'm scrambling I ran, of course I got dressed because I was working from home, so I had my jammies on still and everything. I got dressed, got all my stuff together, couldn't find my keys. I mean, it was sort of a panic situation anyway, but so I finally got her into the car, and the emergency vet it's not incredibly far away, but it's farther away than I felt comfortable, but either way, that was the closest one. So I took her there. I walked in and I told them immediately, her breathing is very labored, and I handed her to the nurse, and I handed her carrier to the nurse that was standing there, and they took her back and they put her into an oxygen tent or an oxygen cage. And in the meantime, of course, I had to fill out paperwork and just pace. And I was just pacing and pacing. And I was, of course, crying and upset and really terrified. Just the fact that they reacted the way that they did with grabbing her the way they did to take her back to get her, it definitely was an emergency. Um, so she was back there. She was back in the back for, I don't know, it seems like probably 30 minutes or so, maybe longer than that. But they were giving me updates and telling me, her breathing is very labored. She was mouth open breathing, which I learned a lot on this day. I'll definitely tell you that. But apparently cats just don't do that. They just don't pant. And if they are panting, unless they're upset, well, even then it means that something is wrong, right? So either they're panicked or they are distressed somehow or they can't breathe. And so that's what Luna's situation was. She could not breathe and she was having a really hard time getting oxygen. So they kept giving me updates. They told me that her blood oxygen level, which again, another thing I learned is supposed to be 98, 99%. And hers was, I believe they said, around 31%. So not good, right? And they said, we're going to do some x-rays and take a look at her lungs and see what's going on there. And so they did that. The doctor took a look at the x-rays. They, of course, again, they kept updating me. The doctor took a look at the x-rays and brought me back to the back to tell me what was going on and showed me the x-rays. And I don't really know very much. I mean, I know I've had x-rays done on my own stuff, and so I know kind of what things are kind of supposed to look like. But another thing I learned was that when they take x-rays of lungs, that for the most part, what you should see is black in the lungs because that's the air. There's nothing for them to x-ray there because there's air in there, which makes sense. Especially after they talked to me about it. And the thing is, with Luna, hers was almost completely white. And so that meant that there was definitely something in her lungs. And they said, we have three possible things. The lowest or the least likely possibility is that she's got some sort of congestive heart issue. The next least likely is that she's got asthma. And the most likely is that she has lung cancer. Now I'm gonna talk for a minute now about the fact that I've had Luna since she was about a year and a half old, I think. And that was about 14 years ago. So she's a 15-year-old cat. At least 10 years of that, I smoked cigarettes in the house, around her, near her. And let's just be honest, I'm not surprised that lung cancer was a possibility. I wouldn't be surprised if lung cancer was a possibility for me, considering I smoked for 30 years, essentially. I started smoking when I was 12. Not, of course, a pack a day when I was 12, but eventually it got to that. So anyway, so my point here is that although I was extremely upset, and this whole time I was having a really hard time keeping it together, So I was talking to my mom. I was talking to Darren. I was trying to figure out what to do, and the doctor, by the time he was telling me what the possibilities were, he was also essentially saying I needed to start thinking about making a decision. It's still hard for me to talk about. especially considering that I've just lost Onyx. I I was telling my mom, there's no way that I am leaving without her. I mean, here's the thing. Of course, I don't want Luna to suffer. I didn't want Onyx to suffer, and I definitely don't want Luna to suffer, and I'm not gonna let that happen. Um, and I told the doctor that too. You know, I said I just lost my other cat that I had for um 12 years or so. I mean, he was an older cat as well and diabetic. Um, I said, you know, I don't want to be selfish, but I also, if there's something that we can do to help her, let's try it, you know? Let's hope that it's asthma. Let's really, really hope that it's asthma and not trying to downplay asthma because that's a horrible thing to have too. But if it's that, then at least it's treatable, right? So we he said, okay, well, let's do this. He said, I'm going to treat it like it's asthma. I'm going to go ahead and give her, you know how people with asthma have an inhaler, so that he gave her something equal to that sort of a same medicine, and I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, I think you know what I'm talking about. And they also gave her steroids to try to, you know, open up her lungs and help her breathing. And this whole time she's in the oxygen thing, getting oxygen. So I say, okay, yes, please do that. Let's at least give that a try. And so, in the meantime, too, he sends the x-rays off to a group of radiologists to also look at it. And when their results came back, it was the same. They had the same three conclusions, possible conclusions. And again, because she's 15 years old, we're not going to, you know, we talked about possibly the to really know for sure what the problem is, we would need to do an ultrasound on her, and then if that wasn't conclusive, then we would have to do a CT scan. And the problem with both of those is that she would have to be sedated and or completely put under to be able to perform those tests on her. They might also have to tap her lungs and stuff to help, because there was air outside of her lungs. And so, because of her age, any sort of sedation is risky. But again, you know, do we want to put her through all that now, or do we want to just, you know, hope that it's asthma and keep going? So we picked the asthma route, and they did those couple things. They kept her in the oxygen for a while, and then he said, okay, I'm going to take her from the oxygen. I'm going to reduce the oxygen level in this oxygen tent until we get to about room level oxygen percentage, which, come to find out, another thing I learned is that it's about 21% out in the normal room levels of oxygen. So they're going to reduce it down to that in the tent and see how she does. Well, she did get up, she sat up, she was looking around, she was responding fine, she wasn't mouth breathing anymore. You know, I said, can I please see her? You know, I mean, so about 3 hours-ish has gone by, 3.5 hours has gone by since I brought her in. And I'm like, can I please see her? And I had asked, of course, right in the beginning, and they told me that right now it wouldn't be good because she's, you know, she would just want to try to get to me, and that would upset her more and stuff. So I, as hard as it was, I, of course, stayed away. And so there, when they reduced the oxygen level, they did let me go back and see her in the cage. And as soon as I walked in, she was meowing and, you know, wanting me. So they opened the door to it, and I actually picked her up and held her and stuff. And they all kind of looked at each other. I probably shouldn't have done that, but I'm telling you, I couldn't not. I mean, like I said, she means the world to me. Anyway, so then they had to do the blood oxygen level test, and the way that this works is that they actually put the tester, it's a probe, it's an anal probe that they do. And of course, she hated that, but they took her off to the side and that she couldn't see me so she wouldn't associate me with that horror. But they took her off to the side and they did that. And the first test that they did, they told me before they did it, they said, it's a lot of times when we do this test, it doesn't show anything at all. It doesn't register, so we may have to do it more than once. And I was like, honestly, do whatever you need to do to check it because I want to know. So they tested her twice, and the first time it didn't register. The second time it registered, and it was 99%. And actually, the doctor and the nurses we all cheered and were really happy, of course. So she came back from this episode that she had, and they told me I could take her home. And they put her in. We put her back in the carrier, and then they talked to me about that they were going to send me home with some steroids for me to give her, and she absolutely hates these. It's a liquid treatment, so I have to put it in this dispenser or whatever and essentially just squirt it down her throat once in the morning and once at night. And then in the meantime, Darren drove up and like I said, all this happened on Monday. So Darren drove up, and it's a 7 to 8 hour drive. So we were all thinking that the choice was going to have to be made, and thankfully it didn't have to be made. But I did call him and tell him, that I was taking her home and that he didn't have to come up and stuff. And I, I felt like we're just going to try to treat it as asthma and see how it goes. But anyway, he came up anyway. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Darren, if you're watching/listening. But I kept an eye on her. I was exhausted. That night, you should have seen under my eyes. I mean, I cried so much, and my mom, I'm thankful for my mom being there to talk to me and to try to keep me calm and, just being there for me. So but I looked horrible. Underneath my eyes, I looked like somebody had punched me, and it was like a fresh red bruise or something. Anyway, so I took her home, and I was, of course, very gentle with her. Gave her the steroids, and just she and I wound up. We went to bed. She sleeps with me in the bed, and it was really telling when we got in the bed, and we have a certain way that we lay. So if you're looking at the bed, I lay on the right hand side and she lays on the left hand side up toward the pillow. And normally I lay on my stomach, but then I put my arm under the pillow, and then my other arm sort of comes around, and she lays in the middle of where my arms sort of are. It's hard to describe, but anyway, that night she laid down, and she actually scooted over toward me and laid her head on my hand, and just was close to me, so Darren showed up about 1 a.m, let him in. We all went to sleep, and then the next day I stayed home again. I stayed home on Tuesday because I wanted to keep an eye on her. I wasn't about to just leave her, after she and I both, but mostly her, we had been through so much. And she seemed to do okay on Tuesday, and so then Darren suggested that I see if I could take her to the normal vet. So I did that, called him up, and took her up there that afternoon, and they did checked her, listened to her breathing, looked at the x-rays, listened to her heart, took her temperature, all the things, just trying to do a thorough check. The doctor came back and said, this I looked at the x-rays, and the things that they suggested it could be, she says, I agree with this, and She said it's, it's definitely, we can rule out the heart thing because, that would be pretty obvious and it probably would have taken her and stuff. So anyway, so that we could rule that out. But she said we're gonna treat it as asthma also. She thought that was a good idea because even if it is lung cancer, giving her the steroids and giving her the regular vet also prescribed to her a it's kind of like the pill form of that inhaler thingy, the inhaler puff. So she prescribed that to her, and she said, giving her that, whether or not she's asthmatic or not, is going to help her breathe. It's going to help her keep her lungs open and air coming in and everything. So that's kind of where we are. I have to give her steroids in the morning, steroids at night, and at night I also give her that pill, which this is a funny part. So while we were at the regular vet and she was having her temperature taken, and that's also a rectal exam or rectal issue or whatever you call it. So Luna was just growling and hissing at the doctor and everything, and she gave her some easy cheese or spray cheese, the cheese in a can, and she dragged it across the table, and Luna was growling just, and when the doctor put the cheese across, Luna was just going nyang, 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 because she was still mad, but she wanted that easy cheese really bad. So we all laughed about that, and I told him about this cat mansion that you see me building here in the video, and I asked if that would have had any sort of effect on her, and they said no, that's not it. This is definitely not a product of something like that. It didn't just happen all of a sudden. It's been happening over time. And anyway, so I give her these pills and the liquid, and she hates it, but she also gets easy cheese every night now because that's how she can take that pill. And yeah, I mean, she's so far, she seems to be doing okay. She's acting pretty normal. She's eating normally. It's so strange. And you watch her in this video, and you guys, I know you can see her walking around on the floor and looking at stuff and whatever. And that's how she's acting now. I mean, right now, while I'm talking, she's actually upstairs, probably in her cat mansion, laying there. She likes getting into the little houses that, where she can sort of hide. But when I go into my office and I sit there at my desk, she gets up next to me and lays down and goes to sleep like normal. So I don't know. I really hope that it is asthma, and I hope that I can just treat her with this medication and that she's going to continue to be okay. But of course, if it turns out to be something else, and if these episodes happen again, we'll deal with it when it comes up. But anyway, so does anybody out there have asthma or have to do the inhaler and stuff? I'm curious about that, and how, have you had it since you were a kid, or did you have it as a kid and then it went away, or did you not have it as a kid and it just came on later on? I don't know what I just said right there, but I'm sure it was, I said you can't see anything. That's what I said right there. What do you think about the sound of this voiceover? I got a new microphone, and it's a Yeti. It's a Yeti Blackout is what it's called, and it's pretty cool. I can sort of do ASMR. I don't know, some people think that's creepy, but I think it's kind of funny. But anyway, so that's my story, and that's what happened, and of course I'll keep you updated on Luna. And yeah, she likes being on that top shelf that I'm putting up there right now. She likes to get up there and survey her kingdom. That's definitely her castle, cat mansion. She loves it, and seemingly she loves it. It's very, very soft. It's really velvety. Yeah, if you have any thoughts on what happened with Luna, definitely leave me a comment. If you have had an experience similar, leave me a comment. Tell me about it. If you have had and I mean with your pets, but also your own self. All right. Have a good day or good night wherever you are, and if you feel like watching to the end, go for it. All right. I'll talk to you next time. Bye. What do you think, baby? You can see all the stuff now, huh? What do you think? Thank you for watching. Click here to subscribe, or click here to watch another video. I'll see you later, creepy poples.